Oh, there she is. Just got her loaded up. I'm in a real rush to get back home. I got a 3-hour drive ahead of me, and I got 2 hours and 45 minutes to get there. So let's get going. I started recording a video on the machine a few days ago when we got it, and some of the audio came out pretty crappy, and I was just kind of rambling. It was all over the place. So I'm going to try to make this pretty quick and concise. I don't want to regurgitate the things that are said in every video too much, but I also got to touch on some things, just because if people don't know anything about the machine, then I guess they do want to know that basic info. So it's a 2023 Honda Pioneer 520. Color is Krypton green, new for this year. It was actually the color that kind of sold me on it, and I really like it. I don't think it's showing up properly in video. I don't think the video camera does it justice, but in reality, this thing is like bright. It's brighter than like what you're picturing. It's almost more yellowish than green, but it's really loud. I like it. Anyway, the 520 is what they consider a trail machine, 50-inch wide machine. So very maneuverable, accessible to restricted trails. And around here, the trails are slowly being made wider and wider, the publicly accessible trails, just because more and more folks have side-by-sides that are 60 inches or 55, 60, 64 inches, whatever, depending on the size. But there are still some trails along the way, some entry points that are still only going to be 50 inches, and a lot of that is because of just the way the tree growth is. So that's one of the reasons I got it. Second reason I got it is, in the past I had a much larger Razor, which of course is more of just a sports machine, and this is more of a utility / recreation machine. And I also have little kids now. I have a 6-year-old daughter who is just old enough to start to come ride with me, and it's going to be, nice slow rides. We're not going on any jumps or doing anything crazy. Just having a good time, leisurely trail rides, and she likes it, so that's really all we need. And I don't need the machine to be anything crazy. So it's 518 cc, hence the 520 moniker. But the other good thing with a 50-inch machine is I have a car trailer, but I plan on being able to transport it. But if I'm just going somewhere, access trails that are not accessible directly from the house, I don't want to have to trailer the thing. So being able to load it in the bed of the truck would be nice. I only have a 5.5-foot bed, so I still have to come up with some sort of a rig that will lay in the bed of the truck and extend past the tailgate, so that it's properly securing the side-by-side. But I think that would just be a lot handier than having to haul the trailer everywhere. And somebody's probably going to leave in the comments about mad ramps, which I've looked into them. They're just not for me. I don't like the price, and just something about the design. I don't really love it. It looks kind of goofy. But anyway, I'm going to come up with something for that, so that would be nice. And that really wouldn't be an option with a much wider or longer machine. So that's the plan for this thing. Nothing too crazy. And with the dump bed on it, of course, it's got utility purpose as well, which is always good because you're always working on some sort of projects around the house here. Push the lever down. Gas assisted. It's a 450-pound capacity bed. Tailgate opens with these latches, as you'll find on all the Honda Pioneers use the same style latch. No problem with them. They feel nice and solid. They're spring loaded, so as soon as you lift them up, they catch themselves. Push them back down, good and strong. The machine is a 5-speed, And no CVT, doesn't use any belts. It uses a centrifugal clutch, that's my understanding. And you can leave it in full automatic, so when you start it up, and we'll show you that in a second, it'll just shift through the gears on its own. Or you can switch it over to manual, and using paddle shifters, upshift, downshift, you can select your gear manually, and there'll be a gear indicator right here that will show you what gear you're currently in. Two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive selector. There's no turf mode, there's no locking front diff, nothing fancy like that. It's an entry-level machine. It has an MSRP of $9,999, so it is kind of bare bones in that respect. But for the looking at competitors, there's really nothing else in that price range that is comparable in my mind. Polaris has priced themselves right out of this segment of the market. There's nothing left. Years ago when I had a Razor, there was the 50-inch Razor Trail that had a 570 engine in it, and that was under 10 grand. I mean, that was also 7, 8, 9 years ago when prices were lower, before inflation. But there's nothing really comparable to it, unless you're looking at some of the import, like the Chinese machines, like what you can get at Lowe's, like Axis or Massimo, which I think they sell them a couple different places, but for our area that would be Tractor Supply. So it's kind of, it was its own thing. The only other thing I would have considered was the Pioneer 704, which is the next larger machine, but also has pop-up seats in the bed, which would have been perfect for the kids. But my daughter's 6, like I said. My son is only 2 years old. It's going to be a couple years before he's old enough to ride. I would say at least 2 years, if not more. So maybe at that point, if we outgrow the 520, we trade it in and we get the 704. So for right now, that's more than going to serve the purposes. So why don't we fire it up, Benny? Wait for that fuel pump to prime. All right. So 14 miles on the odometer. The first part of this video, if I include the earlier segments I filmed, were literally when it was brand new. So this is how many miles we've put on it. Not much, just a couple little short trips. Your coolant temp, obviously just fired it up so it's low. The hours on the machine, the miles left until service, and the hours left until service. The gear indicator, because we're in automatic, says D. If I switch this over to manual, you see it now says 1. I'll put my foot on the brake. We'll release the parking brake, which is right down here. Okay. Parking brake indicator went out. So we're in first gear. You pull on the downshift lever, you can see we're in neutral. Upshift first, upshift second, and it won't let you go beyond second when you're just starting off. It doesn't want you starting off beyond second gear for obvious reasons. So we'll put it back to neutral. In order to get to reverse, and this applies whether you're in manual mode or automatic mode, switch it back to automatic. See, it says D instead of 1. So in order to get to reverse, there is a lever right there. You have to pull that lever out, and I have to do this while I have the phone in my hand. So I have that lever pulled out, and then with your left hand, pull the downshift lever, and now we're in reverse. We'll access under the hood here. There's not much to see, but just so you know what you're dealing with. One of the chief complaints you're going to hear in videos about this machine is the lack of storage space, and that's true. There's no little cubbies for your cell phone or car keys or anything like that. Obviously you have the bed, of course, but there's nothing from the factory. You got 2 cup holders, and that's kind of really it. There's a number of companies that make underhood storage for here, compartments that you could add, which isn't a bad idea. I think I might make something up out of aluminum, actually. And as far as access to everything, it's pretty simple here. Manual steering, of course, no power steering option on the 520. I don't think you really need it. Radiator access, overflow tank. Everything's pretty accessible. Any kind of modifications, or if you had to add something to the dash, really easy, simple access to get to the dash. No sitting on your back, laying on the floor, trying to get your head up underneath there. You lift that off, and you got full access behind here. You have your, there's a 12-volt port there, which is from the inside. That's down by the reverse lockout handle. And your gauge cluster, access to your paddle shifters, the wiring for your paddle shifters, ignition, your headlights, just halogen headlights, nothing fancy. You could always convert them to LED if you so wish. But that's really it. We'll get this back on here. And we'll go for a ride. Are you having fun, Riley? Still recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay.
It's going to be a long
No,
video.
this is a shallow one. We already tried it. Whoa!
Water came on me a little bit.
Don't worry about this, buddy. You're alright.
What did you do?
How's that camera bouncing all over the place? Oh, look at the old train bridge.
I need to. Send all those
Yeah. Maybe we should use 4-wheel drive for this, huh? Yeah.
because pretty soon it's the sign's going off down.
Yeah. those shifts are kind of a little bit aggressive at real light throttle, but you can also they smooth out a little bit as the engine warms up. Here's a prime example of needing that 50-inch width through there. My daughter with me, I haven't been afraid to get on a little bit harder, and it's definitely peppy for a 500cc machine. I would say I'm also really realizing that there is a very real limit to a 50-inch wide machine as far as cornering and angles, so we'll leave it at that.